unless you've been living under a rock, you are very aware of Simone Biles, gold medalist Simone Biles of the United States women's gymnastic team, has actually stepped back from competition. And she cited her mental well being as part of the reasons why she's stepping back. There's been a lot of folks that have applauded her for putting herself first and taking her mental well-being into consideration. But of course, we've had a slew of people that think that Simone is a disgrace and have had choice words for her. One of the things I want to say, I want to preface this, okay? I'm going to show us a clip. This man, his name is Charlie Kirk, and I'm not using this video to promote Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk does enough. He has enough promotion. He does enough promoting of his own. The reason why I'm using this snippet is two reasons. One, because of the type of language he uses to describe her simply for not performing. Okay, and two, to showcase the reach that this man has. Charlie Kirk is one of these new aged neoconservative types, these thinkers on the right, on the conservative side. This man can quickly put together a rally that will end up bringing in hundreds of thousands of dollars quickly. So he has power within that sphere. So I just want to preface this video by stating that first. Let's take a quick listen to what he has to say.
Simone Biles says, this Olympic Games, I wanted to be for myself when I came in, and I felt like I was still doing it for other people, as she cried after the team event on Tuesday. So it hurts my heart, because doing what I love has been kind of taken away from me to please other people. Yeah, that's the point, Simone Biles. You're representing your nation, you're selfish sociopath. You kidding me? She's an incredible athlete. Of course she's an incredible athlete. I just said she's probably the greatest gymnast of all time. She's also very selfish. She's immature, and she is a shame to the country. She's totally a sociopath. Of course she's a sociopath.
So, my man Elgin, when you initially heard Simone Biles was going to be taking a step back from competition during the Olympics to address her mental health, what were your first thoughts?
Round of applause for Simone Biles. Round of applause for Black people across the diaspora who decide to step away from whatever they are doing to protect themselves and to protect themselves and to watch out for their mentals and the emotional states. So my initial was a round of applause. We have seen this all throughout this pandemic where Black folks are doing it. I find it a tad bit fascinating that when Kyrie Irving did the same thing earlier in the season, he didn't receive the same type of do I want to say recognition? Same type of recognition that Simone did, and I think there's a variety of reasons for that. But I feel that Simone, Naomi, and all these Black athletes who are stepping away, I don't think it's the pressure of the sports. I don't think it's the pressure of the media that is driving them away. I think it's the pressure of having to perform in a system such as capitalism, that you have to continuously put it in it's the same pressure that we face on a smaller scale, but these folks actually can afford to step away and take some time away from the game. Like at my job, I can't afford to just say, fuck y'all, and I'm taking some time away and not fulfilling my obligations there. But at the same time, when you are an Olympic athlete, you are not a paid Olympic athlete. Olympic athletes do not receive a salary. The money they typically do make is through endorsements for their participation in the Olympics. So, and then at the same time, as someone who is Black, I don't understand why there's this conversation of, you're not loving your country and protecting your country at the same. Listen, for the past 400 years, but we can just stay on the past 2 years. This country has literally given black people the middle of their ass to kiss in every situation, whether it be Brianna, whether it be Ahmaud, whether it be George Floyd, whether it be the evictions, whether it be the way they handled the pandemic, whether it be the 1400 when it was supposed to be 2000, whether it's all those different things. There is no reason why, in my estimation, that black people should have this unwavering loyalty to this country, a country that has consistently shown you and everybody else that they don't give a rat's ass about you, unless, guess what? You're representing them in front of other countries. Then it becomes America versus China. You're not like this asshole. Listen, these white folks, man, are organizing in ways that I just think that we need to pay attention to. The fact that he's able to draw the numbers the way that he is able to draw the numbers by calling black folks sociopaths
and selfish and all this other stuff.
He went as far as he possibly could without calling her a lazy, shiftless nigger.
Yeah.
And again, me and Carmen are agreeing again. I don't know what it must be. The ancestors must be speaking to both of us. But I absolutely agree. I think black folks should have abstained from the Olympics, but and motherfuckers ain't gonna listen to Elgin. But yeah. Listen, the moment that our sister was not able to go because she was smoking weed to cope with her grieving, but the white queer women can actually come out and support and be sponsored by CBD companies, and it's no. Yeah. The moment, I just think that we have to be a little wiser in the way that we navigate. But long story short, I stood and saluted Simone because she made such a stand. But at the same time, Simone's a multi-million-dollar athlete. She can afford to do that shit.
Yeah. I'm going to take a different approach to it, and I'm glad that you prefaced it by talking about America's dedication to black people and why we are always either getting the short end of the stick or being misrepresented when the time comes to it, right? I think we really need to take a deep dive into the mental health perspective of this. Many of us have jobs that we would easily say fuck off tomorrow if we had an opportunity to.
Hi, guys.
Many of us have jobs that we put up with so much nonsense in our day-to-day work.
Hi, guys.
That a week away from work would do us wonders, right? If you could step away, we would. Talk less of a woman who, and I'm going to be very frank, because most of these folks that are doing all the noise making during this whole thing are probably nowhere as good at their job as she is at her job. She's literally the pinnacle of her profession.
She's the greatest of all time. Sure.
Literally. Mm-hmm. They've named several moves after her. That's how good she is. And she took the opportunity to take a step back. Do you remember, what was it, 93? It was after Jordan's dad died, and he decided that he was going to step away from basketball. Same exact thing. Let's not forget that she recently had to relive the trauma of sexual assault because they just threw the doctor from the women's gymnastic team in the clink.
And when we say we're talking about this month.
After years of litigation, and she was one of the victims. And still she performed and showed up for the team. And maybe it was all just built up on her. And I can't understand how you can fault anyone for wanting to take care of themselves. But I don't think they're doing that. I think they are faulting themselves. And I think they're faulting her for wanting to take care of themselves because the mental aspect of the game is an invisible aspect. And it's part of those things that people are like, well, you've got to push through it. You've got to be tough. You've got to be able to overcome it. That's part of the whole spectacle of sports.
No, this is a spectacle of sports when it comes to black people. Like the part that we got to make sure we harp on and drill down on is black people are expected to perform in spite of anything. I mean, it's in spite of the pain, in spite of all that we are facing, we are supposed to not only perform, but represent this country that has been so great to us all these years. So that component, that still is something I think that resonates in the clear's head, that we don't feel pain the same way they do. That we don't have the same type of ability to navigate, that we're just so resilient, that we're so that, and plus you get a chance to represent America. Like, how could you not want to push through and represent America, the greatest country? Like, motherfucker, are you not watching the news? Like, shit.
You've never lived that life, I guess, my guy. Like, I think that's what it boils down to. You've never lived that life, to have that debate with yourself of how to weigh your blackness and the country where you're born and which one supersedes which. I think you're right about how she's being treated in this aspect, right? There was I guess a statement put out initially by the coach for the women's team that seemed very weird to me on the surface when I first saw it. He basically said that Simone Biles, the reasons why she's stepping away are not physical, and I felt like he was trying to throw her under the bus when I initially.
He was,
but the team, I don't know if it's him or if it's the team collectively, ultimately released a statement saying these are the reasons why she's taking a step back. We are in full solidarity and support of her as she's taking a step back. We can understand why she's doing it.
AKA, in spite of this dumbass coach that just came out and said this stupid shit, we are supporting her. They had to come out and say that. Well, but again, he didn't have to come out and say anything.
He didn't. But even if that's the case, the fact that the team actually did that, if you compare that to what Kyrie went through, they pretty much lambasted him the entire time that he was out. And he said, I'm taking care of my mental. I mean,
in the midst of a pandemic,
call him that he's eclectic and that he's a weird guy and all these other stuff. And I'm like,
don't care. Listen, again, in the midst of a pandemic, and not to shift away from Simone, because she deserves all of the spotlight for this, but to add context to the Kyrie situation. Remember, before the season, Kyrie was one of the athletes, one of the few NBA players that was actually calling not to have the season, not only because of the rebellions that were taking place all across the country, but because we were in the midst of a pandemic. Right. He was just like, no. He didn't think it was good or healthy. So he decided to step away from, he only missed like 2 games. And they destroyed this.
Okay. Missed more than 2 games, but I don't care how many fucking games he missed.
A couple games, the whole Olympics. A couple games. Like you know what I mean? But they destroyed him. I just thought it was a fascinating display of the way we view genders within the Black collective. I think hopefully it opens up at some point in time to a larger discussion.
I don't know necessarily if that'll ever be a change, because once again, people don't see the mental aspects of sport. People don't see the mental aspect of war. Talk less of sports. People come back and they talk about having PTSD, and it's hard to translate what that is, what that means, right?
Yeah.
Like, especially,
and she's not a new athlete. It's not like this is her first time. Yeah. Like, she didn't have anything to prove. If she didn't go, her GOAT status would still be solidified, secure. She was going over there to do the U.S. a favor because the rest of the gymnastic team is trash. Like, let's keep it real. Like, that's why they mad, because, oh, shit, Simone ain't going to be here? Oh, well, I should have stayed in the crib, you know. Shit, Wendy's was hiring. I get it. You
know? I think they won. I think the team exercises, they just won silver or something. And they were almost, quote unquote, a shoot-in to win the gold if Simone had taken part in it. So
if Simone would have played, yeah. And I want, you know what I want though? I want some of these young black folks that when they make the stand to have a little bit more of a fuck you to you. Like, yeah, no. Well, the one thing that I felt like Naomi did was when someone checked her for missing one of the opens, she came back and was just on some basically mind your business type shit. But the same thing with Simone. I think Simone was really gracious towards people. And I think that might just be her personality.
Yeah.
You know, she just seems to be a really gentle, you know, sweet soul. But I want someone to have some more of that raggedness to them. Like, fuck y'all, I'm taking some time off. Like, yo, my motherfucking head hurt. Like,
you're ready to watch the whole world burn down anyway. So.
I got some gas and some matches.
I'm ready for it. What do you think?
But just some anger, man. Just some anger when you being mistreated by people. I just want to see us respond accordingly.
Okay. Quick question for you, because I'm asking a genuine question because I don't remember the circumstances surrounding it. Okay, so for clarity's sake, do you remember this type of backlash for what's his name, Kevin Love? Kevin Love went through something very similar, I think, a season or two ago, where he took a step away from a couple of games he had to address. He said he was suffering from performance anxiety or social anxiety or something like that. And I don't remember people making this type of noise for him. I don't remember.
I got a better one for you. Kevin Love said that he was having, and he did a whole PSA about the mental issues that he was facing. Paul George in the bubble, in the midst of the bubble, playing in the NBA playoffs, told everybody that he was suffering from mental issues and anxiety in the midst of the bubble that didn't allow him to perform to the level that he was able to perform. Man, they dragged the shit out of Paul George. Yeah. They dragged the shit out of Paul George all the way up until this playoffs. So when it comes to black folks talking about our mental health in public spaces, period, bro, that shit is not looked at as, you know, something we should be talked about.
I looked at something real. And one of the biggest problems about it.
But white people can do it. The clear folks.
Hold up. That's part of the problem.
And they should, because they crazy as shit anyway. All y'all motherfuckers should be in therapy.
That being
you're terrorists.
The white people can do it, and you can hear it. I know. I have people that work at my job that I had a woman, maybe I think it was a year and a half ago, who said that she suffered a mental breakdown and she did not come into the office. And this is before the pandemic. She stopped coming into the office, did her job completely remote, said that her physically being in the office sets off her anxiety and her trauma, her trauma senses or whatever, and she just couldn't do it and perform at the level that she needed to do her job. She was gone for a year and a half. We didn't hear nothing from her. She just did her job, right? I would have never forgotten that she even worked for the damn office the way that she was gone. I know that there was another brother that had something very similar happen. His father had passed away maybe a couple of months prior, and he was still having difficulty wrapping his head around it. And this is somebody that, I mean, him and his dad like literally live like 3 houses down from one another. Like he's really, really close to his dad, and his dad passed away, and he was trying to deal with that. And the office refused to allow this dude the same sorts of privileges that they allowed this other lady. And I think it's interesting because, once again, in the midst of this argument, we hear a lot of brothers. Well, also we hear a lot of black people, because I've heard some sisters say some wild shit too about Simone not just sucking that shit up and doing what she needs to do and performing, and just like, okay, well, you've already got all these gold medals. Just go ahead and do it. You're already there. You took the flight. Just go ahead and do what you need to do. Suck it up. Like, what are you crying about?
And fuck them too, because they're just as stupid.
Or a moment of need, and they're not being in the least bit compassionate.
But you understand why? Those are people who operate from a place of jealousy and, you know, respectability politics, because don't forget, there's a ton of respectability politics that's wrapped around the Olympics. I mean, that joint is bathed in respectability politics. So I've heard black people say that too. Just suck it up. You know, just go ahead and do it. You already there. Like, hold on, time out, man. Have you never been in a situation where the mental aspect of life has literally sucked the air out of your body, like doing anything really makes it difficult, you ungrateful, inconsiderate, uncompassionate bastard, you can't see that? Like, how difficult, how harsh and mean and cruel do you have to be that you literally are telling somebody who is suffering mentally an ailment that you can't see, that is incredibly difficult to diagnose and to treat, to just suck it up? Like, I don't.
Part of the blame too, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but part of the blame that I've also been seeing is that they put it on her being a millennial. So they're not the same. They're not the way we used to be. They're not built the same way. You know what I mean? Back in our day, we would have just gone out there. You're getting paid. You're making all this money. You're doing what you're doing or whatever. I would have just done it. You hear that argument a lot. It's because she's a millennial, and I'm actually jealous of her because in my day, I would have never even thought to pull a move like that. I would have never.
Man, these millennials have more audacity and more courage than most of these civil rights generation Negroes and some of these Gen Xers who had yelling out, "I'm not my ancestors," or who first thing they do is pull out their cell phone when Karen shows up to yell in their face, "I'm going to record you," instead of telling Karen to get the hell out my damn face. So when I see these young people make this type of stand, I applaud our young people for having this type of courage and want to support them because of the pressure that we see. You got Piers Morgan, who is an idiot. You have this other person who is an idiot, and countless other idiots coming out against a black woman who has made the decision to step away from something that she wasn't getting paid for in the first place to take care of herself. Round of a fucking applause for Simone.
There is a big level of misogynoir that's wrapped up into this whole thing.
Oh my God.
Her and what's the I always forget her name, the young lady, the track star, because of
Sha'Carri Richardson.
Yeah, Sha'Carri Richardson. Like, it's really disgusting. And I hate to see black people, because of their desire to be close to the proximity of whiteness, start taking on some of these talking points the way they've been taking them on. But
man, did you hear the story about the black? I think it was the black women who were swimmers who wanted to wear a certain kind of swim cap to protect their, and they said that they couldn't. Or the volleyball players, the volleyball players who said, can we wear shorts? And they said no, you got to wear bikini bottoms. Like, what the fuck does bikini bottoms have to do with me? You sexist, misogynistic bastards! I don't get this. Folks is killing me with this, man. And again, I think we should not be participating in these things anyway.
Right.
I think that's the stand that what that would have said if black folks would have not participated in that.
Yeah.
Ooh.
You're right about that.